Hello, 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 and welcome to the Blue Oval Podcast. I am Ben Weissel, and joining me, as always, Garrett Zatlin. How's it going, man?
Ben, you're back. I'm surprised you don't have like an Italian accent at this point or something.
Yeah, no, I went thinking that I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to blend in. I don't want us to look like too big of tourists or anything. And then literally the day one, I'm like, oh, we are the biggest tourists pushing around this like very small stroller, having to like stop and look for directions everywhere, just looking confused probably all the time. And so that dream of like blending in just went out the window very quickly.
Well, you were in Italy, so how does it feel being like the fastest Italian metric miler in the country?
I don't know if that's true, but I know that I was
Oh,
I felt like I was starting to get into shape just from all the walking. Although when I tried to run around to watch people at the Chicago Marathon yesterday, I realized I was very, very out of shape because a quarter mile jog had me on my knees.
well, I don't want to brag, but walked to the fridge today, so
Nice.
pretty
That's
pretty
big.
cool, pretty cool. Anyways, do we have updates on uh was it
Great.
reviews?
I don't think we have anything. Maybe we got one since you guys did the last podcast. So yeah, shout out to Mara and Grace and you for going solo for portions, holding down the fort while I was gone. There was a lot that happened. Obviously, I'm gonna try to go through all my big takes, kind of bounce some ideas off Garrett, make sure that I'm not too far gone or out of the loop. But before we get to that, do we want to touch on some coaching news real quick?
Let's do it. Let's do it. So we broke news on Friday, very conveniently because I was trying to get content out for something else. But we broke news that Andrew Ferris, the former assistant distance coach at Wake Forest and at Iona, is now the new head distance coach at UCLA. Obviously, replacing Sean Brosnan, who again parted ways with the program
Mhm.
earlier this summer, I believe in June. I want to say maybe July, but he's now Andrew Ferris, now the head coach there, head distance coach, and Delaney Rasmussen, a former NAU runner, former Sacramento State distance coach. She is now the assistant coach there as well. Ben, knowing what you know just about this general situation, what are your thoughts on Ferris just getting to UCLA?
I think it's a perfectly reasonable hire. I don't I think we both thought they weren't going to go out and maybe go after a big name, especially just like the timing of things. It was going to be difficult to pull anybody away from a program, at least any big established names. He has plenty of experience with two very strong programs. I think he's going to slide into like the head distance coach role very well. And I mean, it's not probably the most spectacular hire, but with the timing and the circumstances, I think it's a very solid one for UCLA and for Ferris. He gets an opportunity to recruit on the West Coast as part of in Big Ten country and really start to establish that program even more.
Yeah, I think all things considered, I don't really know how they could have done any better. Mainly
Hmm.
because it's more so you look at what he did at Wake Forest, right? I
Yeah,
mean, he is the guy that brought in all these guys like Faccioni and T Wald and I was say Aaron
Los
Las Harris
Harris.
and
Yeah.
like yeah, like a handful of those guys. That's the reason why Wake Forest
Hmm.
was so dominant. Now, obviously, John Hayes has developed and refined and has brought in a handful of right guys on his own since Ferris has left. So there's certainly it's more than it's obviously a big coaching effort overall.
Right.
But Ferris, in terms of recruiting, was like the guy there. And kind of when I think about it, I go, all right, so Wake Forest, UCLA, two Power Five programs, both not quite at the top of their conferences, at least generally speaking, in recent years, but both highly academic powerhouses. They
Hmm.
both you would think they have greater resources. Um, and I think they're attractive landing spots to go to, especially if you're now an LA school going to be in the Big Ten. So I think it's overall probably the best they could have had. I was surprised to me that it took this long. I talked to two
That
separate people
yeah.
and they were like, why did this take 3 months? Was it 3 months?
Yeah, I mean, basically, if it was July, then yeah, it would have been 3 months.
I don't understand why. Like, what took so long?
I feel like it would have been best for all parties if this could have happened 2 months ago. Like you don't we don't have coaching news in October ever. Like this is probably going to be a unicorn in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it was extremely odd from that perspective. I don't know why. I know that there were, multiple applicants for it. So it's not. I don't think it's like they were like, you know, I
Not
don't think it's
not
like they were
interviewing, not doing things, right?
well, right. I don't. Well, I don't think it's like, oh, come on, someone, please coach our program. That's not. I don't
Yeah,
think that. I
right, right,
don't
right.
think that's what it was. But I think moving forward, from a recruiting perspective, this is big. All right. You had a handful of items that you wanted to touch on from the
The
time that you
last
missed.
2 weeks, yeah. So 2 weeks,
2 weeks.
I went through, read as many of the TSR articles, listened to your guys' podcast, looked at the results, and I just have like a laundry list of just random thoughts in no particular order, really. And I'm just gonna throw them at you. You can comment as much or as little as you want. I'll probably add a little bit in, but literally, I just have like people's names and like a few other things like next to them. So, with that said, first thing, and I don't think you're going to be surprised that this was one of the first things I jotted down. Not that worried, and maybe I should be, but I'm frankly not that worried about the Stanford men yet. I feel like that first race was a 5 alarm drilled like fire, but Cole Sprout, there's not a I as long as Cole Sprout is like running the over the next 2 months, he's never gonna have a race like that. Like he just I just struggle to believe he's going to be that bad. And as long as he stays healthy, I think he's going to give them a huge boost. Now I am a little worried about some of the guys like DiDonato and we haven't obviously seen Boyden, but I think the Youngs are gonna work their way into it. We'll talk about another true freshman who came in real red hot in a little bit, but I just I think Stanford. Obviously, you don't want to start out poorly, but they started out so well last year in cross and kind of just petered out. It seemed by nationals, whereas during their outdoor season, they were kind of just a little slower, more methodical.
Do you understand what you're saying?
Yes, I
You're
do.
like, well, they were
I'm not
started
saying
so well last year, so I'm actually happy that they ran extremely poorly.
I'm
This
not
is a
saying
good
it's
sign.
I'm not saying
That's
it's a good
exactly what you're
sign.
saying.
I'm not saying it's a good sign. I'm just saying that I think it's not as bad of a sign, or it's not as like pending doom that I think has been written about and talked about a little bit for them.
Are there avenues to improve? Yes. Are there avenues to be the podium contenders? Maybe, but did a lot of things have to go right?
Yeah, I still think they're podium contenders. And that's more of a product of I don't have a huge amount of confidence outside of the top three teams in the country. Like I still like Wisconsin and North Carolina, but I don't think those are like immovable teams for Stanford to get past. Um,
You can't
so
put Stanford.
no, I know exactly. So that we're back. Oh, you had to know that I was going to bring that up. All right, second point. Syracuse men. My goodness, what like top 10 threat? Like, I mean, what do we think? Like, I mean, is ceiling wise, are they like top? They could finish eighth this year. Like, I just am blown away.
I'm surprised that you're that blown away from a team that I think if we knew if they had Paul O'Donnell, which we
That's
didn't
fair.
initially,
Yes, yes.
I think our impression of them would have been different. I think I look at these results and I'm pulling these results up now. Fourth place is impressive, like but beating 2 points over Villanova, it's certainly really good. Um,
Was it the younger brother Lawler who was amazing? Why am I forgetting his name?
Sam Baller.
Sam
So
Lawler. Yeah.
here's what I have. So Paul O'Donnell was 19, Perry McKinnon 31, Sam Baller 35, SF Harari 38, and Alex Comerford 44. The problem, however, and this is why I'm a little bit more cautious, is that at Battle in Beantown, they didn't race Nathan Lawler at that race, but in Battle in Beantown, guess who was 34th at Battle in Beantown? Nathan Lawler,
Mm.
which is not great. Because I
Yeah.
think we thought that this team was going to have Lawler, and you don't have him. Now I'm like,
And they
now
still
granted, if they had the
could.
top five, they
Yeah,
could.
I mean, obviously there's a lot of time left in the season, so yeah, no, that's a fair point. But I still just I like that group. I think they're going to be packed up, and in a year where I don't feel great about teams outside the top like 6 or 7, really, like I have a lot more, I think, faith in them after what they've shown right from the get
Who do
go.
you have more confidence in right now, Stanford or Syracuse?
Ooh, I think Stanford still has the higher ceiling. I have more confidence in them finishing like top 5, but I think Syracuse has a higher floor at this point. I'm confident in them not just blowing up. Like Stanford could get ugly like pretty fast. Like,
Yeah, I'm
eh,
glad you said that because I completely agree.
but for Syracuse, I don't think that's the case. All right, point number 3, Rocky Hansen. My goodness.
Yeah.
And sorry, these are all like men. I promise I'll get to the women. I think I guess it was probably when I was just going through the men's and then women's results, but I'm struggling to remember a performance like this from a true freshman right out of the gates for like an American true freshman.
Okay, that's what I was going to clarify. Yeah. Well, I
Is
guess. Well, no, because I guess Ches wasn't American.
Grant Fisher like? But I don't even, was he
I don't even know if
like
he was that. Yeah, I
that
mean, he
good?
didn't race until like the postseason when he was a freshman. I don't know.
It blew me away. That was so like, I always talk about how hard it is to go from high school to like college for the men. You're bumping up from 5K, 8K to 8K, and now he's going to go up to 10K eventually this year. But he made it look so easy, and to do it this early in the season too, on his first collegiate, like real collegiate race, I could not have been more impressed. And I know you talked about Wake Forest maybe being a title threat in 2025. I don't know how I feel about that, but I know that Hansen is going to be a title threat by at least 2025. I feel like, and I think
We're talking
that
about one race for this guy right now.
I know, but I'm that impressed by it, and he might not have end up having as great of a season as this first race showed this year, but I think the talent is just so apparent after this one race. Where, like I said, in 2 years, I would not be stunned to see if he's like right there in the mix. Like I think he's a better Parker Wolf, like in the making, at the very least.
Okay. Um, that's a pretty bold statement.
I know,
I don't think it's out of whack. I just think it's bold. I will say this: the fact that I can't think of a freshman who in the fall, because Nico Young was
right?
amazing in the winter,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes,
And
yes.
you could say the same thing about probably a couple others, but like in the fall of their first true rookie cross country season, you're right. I don't think I can remember an American freshman their first race being quite as good as this. I'm sure it's happened. I
Yeah,
know it's happened. I just can't think of who that is.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I am very high on him, and I'm super excited to see him because Wake Forest are at Nuttycombe this weekend, right?
yes,
I'm very very excited
yeah.
to see him go up against another really really good field. All right, next point, NAU women. They are who we thought they were plus some. Like they have all the things we talked about how their depth, and maybe they don't have that as high of a ceiling as a team like Colorado with all their stars who maybe aren't as consistent or healthy all the time. But NAU just showed they have so much depth. I still do like their firepower, and I'm probably a little bit higher on their 2 or 3 runners in terms of their ability to finish a little bit higher at nationals to counteract some of the best teams in the country. But I mean, Elise Stearns obviously incredible, but the rest of that lineup, I am just I think we'll maybe talk about how I'm not as like over the moon about NAU men as maybe everybody. I still think they're the favorites, but I am way high on NAU women.
I think that's fair. I have nothing. I mean, everything that you said, I would just echo in the same way. So I agree. I have nothing more to add.
Quick victory lap on Luke Hauser. Love Luke Hauser. You make me look good all the time.
Yeah,
Really
that was good.
appreciate it.
That was good.
Washington Men though, it's gonna be a bumpy ride
For
this
every
year.
high, you have to have a low, and it's all retaining to Washington in some
Yes,
capacity.
or Stanford. They're like
True. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
so it's I still believe like they have like Green and Wascom and they got pieces to come back in, and this and Nuttycombe will be very instructive for them as well. But Hauser gives them that low stick that I think they can depend on. Stanford women victory lap for you and me.
Yeah.
I
True.
love what we're seeing from them. Bunnage has come in. We need to see Riggs. Riggs didn't run, right?
Riggs did not run. No.
Want to see. I would love to see her because I really do, and I know you agree with me on this. Really believe in their ability to do something big this year.
Real quick, does Dudek need to be an All-American for this team to be on the podium? Because she was outside of the top 40 at the Virginia Invitational.
I don't think so. I think I don't think she needs to be All American, but I think she probably needs to be a top 5 scorer. Like, and that might end up needing to be an All American to be a podium finisher. But I think they have enough firepower to if she finishes 45th or 50th, that's fine.
Is that under the assumption that Riggs does not run?
That is under the assumption that Riggs does run. I think they need her if Dudek
So if Riggs doesn't run,
then I think she does need to be an All American.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Where do you land?
I think it's the latter.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Bunnage and Doris, Lemongol or Cherub. Wow, like just. And I have another Cherub point or Lemongol point later, but they have just come in and made. We have something else regarding them that we can maybe talk about. We'll talk about in maybe later weeks, but they are what
Maybe
we
later this week
and better. And they're better than at least.
I don't think Bunnage is better.
Bunnage, yeah, but yeah,
I think Bunnage is all on par with what I thought she was going to be.
Yeah, exactly. All right, what's up next? Sophie O'Sullivan already like just not taking a break. Like I was like stunned to see her run at Virginia and ran pretty well. Like she is just a workhorse.
Do you think she's going to run at Nuttycombe? We don't have our entries for
I don't know. Like I would have thought no, and I would have thought no for Virginia. I thought they would have had her ready to go for like.
But here's my thought process though, because if she's coming off, she's like on a hot streak, right? She's still super fit, and it's about race back at UVA Invitational back in September. They're like, all right, well, let's capitalize on this right now, and they did. They got the Colas, like they got great.
Yeah, they're good
from that meet. They're good. So why would she need to race in this?
Why would they not take her and bring her back up? I don't think there's any reason. And I think they could have been I don't think they were that desperate for Colas points that they even needed to run her in the first at Virginia.
I don't know if they knew what they were going to have.
Right.
At least I didn't know.
That's fair. So I mean I was just surprised that she ran at all this early, and I don't think there's any reason to keep running her. I mean, she's been racing for how many months straight? Like,
well, keep running until the postseason.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Obviously come back for nationals. Utah women, Air Force men.
Sorry. Sorry. Everyone say sorry.
How do they keep doing this? Like it's ridiculous. Like I was literally looking. I think I was in London at this point, just like staring at my phone, being like, this can't be right. Like. I was like, I can't name that many people on Utah's women's team. How are they doing this?
Who were you more surprised about?
Honestly, I think it was probably Air Force because like they were just decimated. I mean, I don't know. Both teams were decimated, but I feel like Utah, I don't know. Both have good track records, but I feel like Utah has a little bit more of a track record on the women's side than I don't even know if that's fair to say.
Maybe by a little bit. The problem is that like I don't think you could have expected all of those Utah women, whether it be Anastasia Peters, Mayfield, Caesar, someone else. I'm completely
like freshmen transfers.
Yeah, I just don't think you could have expected them to run as well as they did. But by comparison, Griak was not nearly as competitive as what UVA Invitational was.
Right.
And you look back at it, Air Force lost 4 of their top 5 scorers from the national meet, and their fourth guy, Luke Combs, didn't run since the last year's national meet at cross country. Like, I'm so sorry if we were like, oh, we're not sure about Air Force. Like, yeah, I think we had a good reason not to be sure about Air Force. I think it's reasonable.
Yeah, I just amazed. The ability for those coaching staffs to turn over their teams, to get the individuals ready who haven't contributed at this level ever, to be able to like get up and be ready for this, like these big races right from the get-go. Amazing, amazing job. Huge kudos. I am really excited to see them over the next few weeks. Oklahoma State men with Dennis
Mm,
Kipnetich and Brian Massell.
mm-hmm.
So not so they're a big reason why I just don't think NAU is like they look great, but Oklahoma State is going to be fabulous. Like
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, like you look at that roster, and obviously we need to see them all together, put it together in a big race against even better competition. But man, they just look like they have so many options and so much firepower. Like they have depth of like low sticks basically, which is a crazy thing to say.
If you do the math, the point scoring math in our individual rankings, NAU still beats them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like I think they again
I think it depends on how good you think this Kipnigich is that
yeah,
it?
yeah.
I think it depends on how good you think he is, and maybe
Right.
more so Sal. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean we need to see both of those guys at a bigger race than Cowboy Jamboree. Like they ran well, but we need to see
well,
them
luckily
actually.
they will be at. Oh, they're not going to be at
Nuttycombe. They're
Nuttycombe.
not at Nutty, right? Yeah, exactly. So we're just not going to know, like,
Are they at
until we hit
pre-nats? Is that
nationals.
what it is? I will take a look.
And so yeah, I think we're going to have this kind of team out there in Oklahoma State that we're just not going to know how they really compete with like the NAUs and BYUs until nationals. And I think that's going to be create so much great drama.
I don't think they're racing again until Big 12s.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, we're not going to know anything. Like we are going to be flying completely blind with this team.
Come on, Dave. Come on, man. Like that's not fair.
So yeah, I am very they are going to be probably this year's Stanford for me in terms of just like how interested I am in watching them.
Well, for their sake, you better hope that they're not this year's
Yeah. Oh
Stanford
no,
for me.
I'm not trying to curse them at all. Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to put that juju on them. I'm just telling you how interested I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, while a little like I said, a little skeptical about NAU being like the slam dunk, I have no feelings of that sorts for NC State after their Notre Dame performance. They look on the women's side just mile and a half better than everyone else. And I say that thinking that the women's there's a lot more quality title contending type of teams on the women's side than the men's side. But I just think NC State is far and away better. They have so much depth, and they have like Aaliyah Stevens, who looks like a top 25 runner at this point. Like,
I do want to give a quick. I do want to quickly look at an article from John Galt regarding some of the NCAA XE
mhm.
stuff he previewed for this season.
Yeah.
He did mention, and here's like what I guess I want you to like to ask.
Mhm.
They didn't run in that meet at Joe Piani. They didn't run Tuohy. They didn't
Tuohy,
run Tanisima. They didn't run Robert. They didn't run Lovies. But and they also they ran Bush, but she
but she didn't run
struggled in the
well. Yeah.
30th. Yeah, she was not. Um, let's see. No, yeah, here we go. Oh, no, that wasn't it. All right. Well, whatever it was, I think there's questions about like a little bit of health. Apparently, Tanisima was injured during the summer. That's not my impression that she's injured now.
Hmm.
What is her fitness like? Will she race at Nuttycombe again? We don't have entries. What are your thoughts on Bush? Like Stevens is great. Are you or do you not like have those same concerns that maybe I do?
Not, not. Really, I just think they have the depth and and obviously I'm not worried about Tuohy. Tanisima, I feel like is someone who can get into shape pretty quickly. So if she was injured in the summer, I'm not really overly concerned about her. Maybe she's not going to be a top 10 threat this year because of that, but I still think she'll be an All-American. And Bush, it's not ideal, but at the end of the day, with the amount of depth they're showing, I don't know if they frankly need her to be at the top of her game like we maybe thought we did at the beginning of the season.
Robert, according to John Galt, will likely not race in 2023 due to injury.
Hmm.
But I mean, granted, like you said, the options are like, I don't think that's for the options that they have. I don't know if that's like a devastating loss. It's not great, but
No,
yeah. And so I'm hoping that Bush will be okay. It is kind of going to be interesting to see like how sharp is Tanisima.
yeah.
Um, but I think the big X factor in all of this is Stevens. So
I mean, yeah, what she's turned into is, I mean, makes them unbeatable essentially.
yeah.
Like, if
Yeah.
she's keeps running like this, no one has a shot. Um, Love another victory lap from Sienna Chisholm. Again, always believed in
Yep.
her. She's been great. Really impressed with the Alabama women. Like
Yeah.
I loved what we saw from them. Like
I get a victory lap on Joy
yes, you do.
Gill.
You do. Absolutely. Like the depth looks great. Like we said, Doris Lemon looks incredible. And I mean, obviously, Mama is still there, but yeah, the depth along with those two low sticks is as good as it's ever been, and they look like just as good of a team. Like it's amazing. They've seemed like they've hardly missed a step without, despite losing Askell and other strong women. So with that said, mentioning Lemon, who is Tuohy's biggest threat individually this year to beat her at
I
NCAA
mean,
race?
like, I mean, uh, yeah, I guess it's Lemgall.
I think, and
I
that's
think
not
it
to
is.
say that she's going to necessarily finish second, but we've seen Vol. I just don't think either of us have a ton of confidence Volby be able to beat Tuohy, even though I would say Volby's probably the second best runner in the country at this point, as long as she's healthy, and we haven't seen her yet. But I think just because we haven't seen Lemon lose to it yet, she's probably the best bet.
I don't know. We've done this 1,000
I
times. I mean,
know.
to be very clear, I am not saying I am never, ever, ever,
No,
ever, ever picking Caitlin Tui to lose. They could lean at the line with four other women, and I'd say no. I'd still picking Caitlin Tui. I'm
I
just not.
agree. It's more of it's a hypothetical like exercise.
Yeah, of course. If anyone could do anything right now, it's Lemgall, just because we know like she validated a bit of her like her crazy times
Yep.
from what we saw on her resume, and also like I think a lot of it is like we don't always know what Volby's status is. She rarely
Hmm.
races, and the fact of the unknown factor in all of this just makes that conversation difficult.
Yep. Yep. Agreed. Um, a little worried about the Notre Dame men, and I know you mentioned this on the last podcast. Weird, some interesting stuff with who they're running and what races. I think a big reason why I was high on Notre Dame was Vinny Mari coming there, and I know we're both big believers in him. It just doesn't seem like it's clicking right now. Not to say that it can't later on the season. They have so many good options, but I was pretty high on them. I think coming into the year, and I haven't loved what I've seen so far.
Carter Solomon ran poorly.
Yes.
I find it hard to believe they fielded 9 guys. I find it hard to believe that Mari, Prakish, and whoever the other guy was, um, someone else. I find it hard to believe that those guys are not
Agreed.
among the top 9. So I'm not worried yet. There's a lot more scoring potency that they could have. It wasn't amazing, but I would like to see how they do in Nuttycombe before I.
Yeah, I'm not like hitting the panic button yet, but I'm like looking for it at this point.
Right, like looking under the bed.
Yeah, I'm just making sure it's there in case I need
Yeah.
to actually press it. All right, like two more. Chandler Givens is who we thought
Yeah.
Toby Gillen was going to be. Like I
Oh, what a great take! I
like
love that.
we the two guys that kind of came out of nowhere this year, and I think we had Toby Gillen ranked pretty high, and I think it was supposed to be Chandler Givens. Like he looks awesome. Like I am super excited to see and not to say that Gillen's been like bad. Like his performance at Loyola was solid. It just wasn't like as spectacular, I think, as what we saw from Givens.
I love that take. That's so clip worthy. I don't know if I'll ever put that out. I like that a lot. That's a great. That's
Again,
a
not
great.
saying anything poor about Gillen, but it's just
Nope,
like
nope. You said it. I'm going to take it completely out of context. So
there you go. I'll get a bunch of hate. I don't check my Instagram, so if you guys want to send me DMs and stuff, that's fine. All right. Racina Machu of Gonzaga over
yeah,
Angle. I mean, whoa.
that was wild.
Like she's circled on my list now for the rest of the year. Like one of the more fascinating runners. Like, what is she going to end up doing?
Does this say more about Machu or more about Engel?
Another point that I had is I don't love what we've seen out of Ohio State. Um,
that's true.
which I was high on them, so I'm taking an L there.
Remember when you argued with me about that?
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna try to go by that quickly.
Nope.
But yeah, I want to say it's Machu. We've seen Angle. We know what Angle is, and even if she's
That's
not
fair.
running at her best, like she still has a baseline of competency that is hard to beat. And Machu beat her by a lot. So really fascinated. And Furman women, I think top 15 this year.
Oh,
Like the depth,
oh,
like the potential to
ooh.
insert some more women up front into that lineup. I'm in.
Okay, nice. I like that. Ooh, I like strong assertion there. I like that. That's great.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I have serious question marks about Ohio State and Toledo women. A little worried about those guys, but
I'd be very worried if I were
yeah.
more so of Toledo, but like Ohio State, at least they'll bring back Kuhn. But even if they bring back Kuhn,
But are
there's some
they
question.
like they're running them so much?
It's a
Why are
lot.
you running so much
They might need the
before
Colas points.
Halloween? Like it is crazy.
Because, like, listen, Charlotte did the same thing on the men's side after they performed poorly at
Yeah,
UVA, and they at least were like this much better
yeah,
at Joe Piani, and that might have yielded a point or two. And I don't know if that's actually going to make a difference, but like that might be the reason why.
yeah. No, I think it is. It's just I still don't like
It's
it.
a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah,
But yeah. All right, that's it. Cleaned out my notebook. I
love that.
had been jotting things down. Appreciate you going down a walk down like the last 2 weeks with me to make sure I hadn't like lost my mind with any of these takes.
That's what I'm here for. Yeah, that and everything. That's what the podcast is for everyone. Just we'll hold your hand and walk down, the NCAA landscape. So just to get out of the real world. So, all right, Nuttycombe. Let's preview it. Where do you wanna start with this? Let's chat about the men's side maybe first. Do you want to do that?
Sure.
Uh,
Who do we think has like the most to prove? Like who's coming into this race? Not necessarily Colas perspective, but more of just like who do we think after these first few weeks needs to come in and kind of turn the tide on maybe the narrative that's been forming so far this year?
um, well, I think I don't know if that's how I would potentially view like the proof aspect. I think you
Okay.
can. I think this is also like a validation opportunity,
Sure. Okay.
right? And for me, I want to know more about California Baptist.
Okay.
California Baptist men were great at GRIAC. Four guys top 20, fifth guy was 19th. A lot of their guys were
Hmm.
outstanding on the track. They've clearly translated that. And I was impressed. They were rewarded in the rankings appropriately. I think a lot of people are just in the conversations that I've had are very high on CBU, and understandably so. That GRIAC field, though, it's
Yeah.
not like it was crazy good. Like Gonzaga was good, and they got second, but who did they beat? A Portland lineup that was, I don't even know if they ran an A lineup. New Mexico didn't have their fourth guy, who admittedly structurally changes things. I just don't know as I'm looking through the rest of these teams, like who did they really beat? And I know that's a little bit of like I don't want to be insulting, but that's just kind of my
Yeah.
question. I think now this is the stage where it's like, okay, show me.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'm gonna pick someone from that same race. I think New Mexico, like from a team perspective, but for me, it's like I'm really curious to see what those top few individuals, what do they do against a top tier field against the two, in our mind, presumptive NCAA title favorites in Bosley and Robinson, and a host of other top guys. Like I'm just curious to see where they stack up, and we're gonna learn a lot about how good these guys are, and how easily they'll be able to adapt to racing in big fields against the best in the country.
I think that's fair. I think a lot of it's Jonathan Carmen, if
Yeah,
he runs or because
from a team
he
perspective,
from a
absolutely.
team
I'm just
perspective,
more
yeah. I
curious
mean,
from
who
individuals.
who's the favorite? Is it Kaleda or Bosley?
I think it has to be Bosley at this point. Like,
Okay, just from a
I
proven standpoint.
yeah, I mean he's done it. I think Kaleda is probably the biggest challenger for him, but this is such a different kind of race
You don't think
experience than
Robinson, who
drag.
won this race last year,
No, because I
or
think
Nico?
Bosley already beat him and beat him pretty convincingly. I would say, not to
What
say
about
that.
Nico?
No, I yeah, no,
You're
sorry,
not on Nico yet.
no, not yet.
Okay,
But
all right.
I think I mean Clay is just like the guy with the highest variability. Like Robinson's going to finish in the top five, like no doubt in my mind. But Kaleda, I think he'll finish top five as well. But I could see him maybe just in a different situation than he's encountered in the U.S. so far, maybe struggling. But if he doesn't, then and he's with Bosley step for step, like through 6K, I could see him beating him.
I'll be interested. I feel like Kaleda's just going to be like, I've run 27, what 20.
Yeah,
I'm going to run away from you.
yeah.
He might try that, and it's just a matter of like who's a brave enough to go, who can
Hmm.
hold, and can you hold him off at the end? Like I think that's the end of that's
Yeah.
just the ultimate summary of the race.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I am curious to see who pushes the pace because I could
Yeah,
see Bosley trying to kind of assert his like dominance a little bit and
yeah.
doing that. So, uh, who do we think finishes third on the team side for the men? Because I think this is for me, assuming that NAU, BYU are kind of that top two. Who do we see finishing third?
No, I don't really like a lot of these teams in this field.
I
Like
know. That's why this is a good question.
I, it, I, yeah. There's this is a shocking. There's a number of a lot of great teams here, and I surprisingly don't like many of them.
But they're all
um,
like 8th to 12th kind of teams, not
this is more
top.
validation of the problems that we had this summer, where we
Yes,
couldn't know how to
exactly.
rank anyone. I'll go Wisconsin or Villanova.
I think it has to be Wisconsin right now, but I don't feel great about it. I think North Carolina could do
Yep,
it. Um I
I think
also feel
Stanford has
like
to say in that
yeah,
conversation.
Stanford could. Yeah, but I also feel like we could see someone out of left field. Like I don't think Colorado will do it, but someone like that where it's just like
Can we talk about Colorado?
yeah, we didn't. I didn't mention them in my roundup, but I, I, I
Because here's the problem. Here's the problem. We can talk about Cole Mattinson like all we want,
right,
right? But he was apparently coming back from an injury per Strava, and so like, he's just getting back into it. Whether he comes back this season or not, who knows? I don't know.
yeah,
The issue that I found with Colorado is not I like their pieces. I still think they have great depth. I like Vansel. I thought Stafford actually ran pretty decent at UVA, but I don't know how they're going to improve. Like I don't know where they get better from there. You
like
know what I mean?
I said that Stafford could be a top three, top five for that guy, but I was like, if that's the case, like in retrospect, I was like, that's probably not a great sign because I think he should be more like a fifth scorer kind of guy for them in the best of worlds where he's very solid in that spot. But I think he's a little overtaxed as your number two in terms of what you would expect in that number
Yeah.
two role. Um, but yeah, I mean,
For a top 10 team, that is.
right, exactly. I think he's running well. The rest of the lineup just needs to step up. And to your point, the play where we ranked them during the preseason was kind of deferential to the program, kind of to like what Air Force and the Utah women have done of just like reloading and restocking and men and women who we haven't really heard of coming in and making a big impact. And we just haven't, the names are there. Like there's the talent on the roster. We just haven't seen them kind of step up and take it.
Who's the team that you irrationally like, except it's not irrational? You have a good reason for it. This is my
I,
favorite category, by the
I
way.
mean,
Just because I like to say the title of it.
right. I already mentioned that I'm very high on Syracuse, so I think they're gonna do very, very well.
Like an under the radar
Yeah, yeah,
team a
yeah.
little
I know.
bit.
That's why
You
I'm
know what I mean?
trying to sort through here who I really, really like. I'm gonna go with the Iowa State men. Actually,
Oh,
I not a great start, but I just still like the talent. I think in a more in a bigger field that their top tier talent hopefully will shine through a little bit more, and they're gonna finish a little bit higher than what we expect.
I like Butler.
Yeah,
I just like Butler. I mean, the Lepelic was great. Their middle lineup scores were awesome. I think Jack McMahon can be better. They didn't run Hamlin. They were still great at UVA. I don't think there's a problem in that lineup. I don't know if there's like a deficiency. They just have a lot of upside. I don't know, man. I just like Butler. I think it's a good team. So, quickly before we move on to the women, what is your one bold prediction for Nuttycombe on the men's side?
Syracuse finishes fourth.
Is that bold?
I mean, it should be right. Like for
No,
them
they're
to,
fourth at UVA. Is it?
yeah. But okay, fair enough.
That's
I'll say they finished third then, which I think is bold. They like
okay,
for them to
that's
beat
bold enough. That's bold
Wisconsin and
enough.
North Carolina.
What?
I I think that's. What about you? I mean, do you have a?
Um, yeah, I do. I think Harvard is going to finish like eighth.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah. I think that if they get that top two, like I do, I think they will. I think Kovacs is going to be better than we thought. I think Brosnan's going to step up, and I think they just need one more guy. Even if the fifth
Yeah,
guy's not that great, I think this is going to be like a sneaky good team. So
yeah,
that's
yeah. That's fair. All right, let's go to the women. On the women's side, who do you feel like has the most to prove going into this race?
it. Do you have an answer for this? Because I'm still trying to look.
I mean, it's not really fair to say Florida because we just haven't seen them. So I think I'll go with.
I'll say Furman.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I obviously am a big fan of Furman, so I think they could really validate these early season performances. I think you can say like the same thing about Utah, like what we were talking about. Like this is a really good opportunity for them to really show how good they are.
I think Lipscomb could be another big
Yeah,
team, right? I think they were because they were competitive at Loyola. You kind of like look at what they do. They had a nice team coming into the season. We like Lydia Miller. They have some decent depth pieces, and I think some could have even run better the other weekend. So
yeah.
I like Lipscomb. I want to like them, but that I want to like them more, but I have to have a reason to. And I
Yeah.
think Nuttycombe is going to be the reason where I'm like, okay, now I have reason.
So who's the favorite? So obviously NC State is the favorite to win, but who's the favorite in your mind to finish runner up?
I think it has to be NAU.
Okay.
I mean, in a field this big, Florida, if one thing, just minor thing goes wrong, NAU can at least match like I'd say 70% of the firepower, depending on who they run. They have the highest floor. You could say Colorado, but
Right.
after yeah, I mean like there's and frankly I'm not worried about Colorado, but we don't know enough about them right now. I didn't love how Sammy Deshawn ran. We don't even know who's going to run. I think at this point, NAU is just kind of the safest option. And
Agreed.
here's my question for you is how close, within how many points does NAU get to NC State?
Are we saying Tuohy runs?
We're saying Tuohy runs, we're saying everyone runs except Robber.
Um, let's say like 20 points.
I think it's going to be like 9, 10, 11.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think it's gonna be a little closer than we think it's gonna be. I mean, last year, don't forget,
Yeah, it was
they had the
right there.
tiebreaker, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, NC State was skating through at times, like ACC's, Nuttycombe. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and they
I
still
that
won the
would
national title. So,
yeah, of course. Exactly. Who do you feel like needs like Colos points out of this?
oh, I love this question. Who needs Colas points? Duke.
Yeah, that's a good
Duke.
one.
I think they ran fair. They were what? Let's see here. They were 12th at UVA, right? But they beat Elon, Northwestern, Ohio State, Columbia, Air Force, Utah State, Liberty, Navy, Charlotte, Eastern Kentucky, JMU. I don't know if any of those teams are going to give them a point.
Hmm.
And I think a 12th place finish in that field is actually pretty good. But who gave them the point? And so at this point, not to be redundant with my verbiage, I think they need a better race, and I think they can have a better race. But I think if they think like if they're going to be this team that we think they can be, that they think they can be, they have to get points at this meet.
I'm gonna say Ole Miss, despite like being in
Hmm.
a not a great South region. I think like if they do finish outside that top two for whatever reason, like this is the opportunity to like
Well,
ensure they.
Alabama and Florida are definitely going
Yeah,
to take that
actually,
top
yeah.
two.
Now I'm thinking that. I guess yeah. I was forgetting about Florida because yeah. I mean yeah. So they're probably going to finish third. So they're almost certainly going to need points. So
That's a
I
good
think
point.
this is their opportunity.
That's a good point. In terms of the individual battle, it's Tuohy, right?
Yeah.
And then it's Volby. Yes,
Yes. Yeah. It has to be right.
I guess yes. Okay, so then how about this? After Volby, who is it?
Stearns.
You don't want Camille.
No, I'll go Stearns.
All right, and who's the fifth? Who's the fifth? We'll say that's the four. Who's the fifth?
Um. Hmm. This is a tough one. Uh, give me Bunnage with a breakout race.
I was thinking Bunnage. Yeah, I think I would go Bunnage or I'd go Ramsden.
Or Markozich. Wait, Markozich should probably be in there.
Yeah, but she was six at Notre
Yeah, she
Dame.
wasn't great, but
I mean,
I
it's
I
not that
could
I
see
don't
her
think she
coming on.
can't do it. I
Yeah.
think it. I mean, I don't know Ramsden,
Yeah.
Markozich, both of which you've interviewed. But
Yes.
okay, all right. I'm trying to think of one more here. Irrational team that you like a lot.
Ooh. I'm gonna say Iowa State again. I know I mentioned Iowa State on the men's side.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
I like what they did. Like that, I think that they were way better than I thought they were going to be. Nothing explosive necessarily about this team, but I think they're going to be solid and just finish way higher than maybe we expect because they just have a good pack that doesn't have like a fifth score that's like in 180th or something.
And that's fair. Okay, that's fair. I've been looking at these teams, and I just don't know who I really like.
I know, like this is a hard list.
This is like not the most fun list because it's either like a very definitive like, I think
Of
Iowa
course you
State's
like
the
them.
the perfect answer for this, but
Like
oh,
Elon, maybe.
yeah, I was thinking Elon. I don't know if I'm ready to say that
Yeah,
yet about Elon. I don't love Colorado State after what happened at GRIAC, and plus they
yeah.
don't have certain women. I think I'm actually going to go Wisconsin.
Okay.
I'll go Wisconsin because they got third at Loyola, right? And I think it's
Hmm.
very easy to be like, whoa, well, what happened there? Well, they didn't run Shea Ruley, and
Hmm.
Maya Rial won the non-invite section. And I think when you bring those two women over, you look at one else, one of the women who can probably be better. You're going to cut down on a lot of points. This is their home course. I see a lot of like really positive avenues, at least more positive than negative for Wisconsin. And I just think they're the perfect mix of like, okay, we already know they're good, but they're certainly not bad, and like the middle in between portion there.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a good one. All right. Well, let's wrap it there.
Well, real quick, we
Or yeah.
gotta get your bold prediction. What's your bold
Oh, bold
prediction?
prediction on the women's side. Shoot. Um. Uh. Uh. Elon's in the top 10.
I do like Elon. I want
I'm
to hold
I'm
this. I
I'm
want
I'm
to like
ready to go
Elon.
there. I think with them.
I want to like Elon a lot. I will say, oh gosh, oh gosh, I don't know, man. Man, I don't like any of these teams. Phoebe Anderson gets second.
Hey, whoa, that's a good one.
I she was great last year. Built a ton of momentum. Just had the greatest race of her life. I think she knows. Like I think she's just gaining momentum. I don't know what I'm getting from maybe Volby yet. I
Hmm.
certain other women like I don't know Ramsden yet. I don't know. Like I think if I'm Anderson and I'm like Dan Ireland at Columbia, I'm like, hey, Maya Ramsden. Everyone thinks she's the Ivy League favorite, and she is. But go run with her and see what you can do.
Yeah.
And if that happens, I would not be totally surprised if she. How about this? I would not be surprised if she cracks the top five. I think second's aggressive, so I'm going to
Yes.
revert
Very.
this prediction back. Top five. I'll say Phoebe Anderson.
Okay.
Top five. Second place is a little aggressive, but
Yes. Yeah. I mean, top five still bold, but that
yeah,
that that's a little bit more doable. So, yep, I like it. All right, let's wrap it there. Definitely gonna have a lot to talk about next week after Nuttycombe. We're gonna have a lot of. I think we're gonna know a lot more about these teams, these individuals. And this is kind of our last big chance to learn a lot. Because for a lot of these teams, depending on what conference or region or whatever they're in, until we get to nationals. So big weekend ahead.
yeah, big weekend. So excited for what's coming up. Excited for what might be coming out on Wednesday when this is released. Something to keep an eye on there. We should be having someone at Nuttycombe this week, so keep an eye out for that with the guy with the camera. There's going to be a lot of those, but we have one of them out there now. We're working on a few things, D2, D3, ton of great content there, but even more great content on the way. And also, just shout out to everyone who is subscribed to the site. We've done very well over the last 2 weeks, and it's been very encouraging to see. You're going to like what the next 9 months have in store. So that's all I got.
All right, Garrett. Well, until next week, I'll talk to you.
I'll talk to you.